Hi everyone, it's me again, here for another, hey, what's that? And for this one, we've got a lot of stuff going on with this trumpet. So, I already did a video on how to oil the valves, so that does make life a little easier, but today I'm going to show you how to clean the trumpet. And the first thing I'll tell you is that cleaning the trumpet is only something you need to do really maybe twice a year. You could probably get away with once a year even. And for myself personally, for my own trumpet, although I know how to clean it, I send it to the shop to be cleaned. Now, my trumpet's probably a lot more expensive than most of your trumpets, so that maybe makes a little bit more sense that I would do that. But just throwing it out there, usually it costs around 120 bucks to have your trumpet thoroughly cleaned from the music store. And they actually typically do a chem clean on that. And that's something, you know, as you get older, you'll know what all those things are. So before I show you all the tools in the maintenance kit that this student has, I'm just going to talk about how to pull the slides out of the trumpet. This is something, again, you really don't need to do very often. But you're going to notice that when you do things like that, you'll hear popping sounds. It's not really very good for your instrument, and it's really hard for the tubes to go back in. So what's happening is, remember, the valves have holes in them, so different combinations allow different air to travel through in different ways. So right now, even though the bell is open on this end and the lead pipe is open on this end for a mouthpiece, there's a closed system happening right now with this trumpet. So air is not able to flow through the whole horn right now. The only way air is able to flow through the whole horn is if all valves are down. So when you do that, then you pull a tube, you don't hear that popping sound anymore. Long ago, someone said that those popping sounds are really bad for the trumpet. I actually don't know what negative effects it has on the trumpet, but I don't do it. It could just be that band directors have said that for all time because it's annoying, and it is. So, the different tubes. This would be our first valve slide. This is our second valve tube. This is the top part of the trumpet, the longer one. This is our tuning slide. And on the other side of that, where your finger helps support the trumpet, is your third valve slide. So, to clean the trumpet, so for everybody, earliest you're doing this is like February or March, okay? First thing I'm gonna do is take all the valves out. Now, if you remember from the oil changing video, or from when we talked about that in class, usually we do one valve at a time to make sure everything's okay. You shouldn't be doing this unless you're really comfortable with your instrument. One little tip I'll show you here in a second on this last valve is, if you do by accident get your valve mixed up, I'll put this closer. Right now, I'll just move the camera a little bit. As I pull things out, I'm lining them up how they go in my trumpet. So, if I pull this, if I rotate, let me try zooming in real quick. There is a number valve. I don't know if that'll focus or not. Well, you're just going to have to take my word for it because I've only got so much time on my lunch. So there is numbers on that. So I apologize for not being a little bit more slick with the camera, but I stole this from Mr. Cullen across the street, and he needs it back. So I'm going to speed this up. Okay, so I take all these off. By the way, the bottom of the valve casing, where I'm pulling these screws from right now, these get stuck all the time. One little maintenance thing I do with my trumpet whenever I'm playing is I always, as I'm, you know, if I'm in rehearsal and the director's talking or whatever, which happens in lessons a lot as well, I'll just make sure that those are nice and loose on my instrument. Not loose, that's the wrong word, but not stuck, because it's common. But if you move it regularly, they won't. I like to think of a trumpet as a huge, like, fidget spinner. We're not spinning anything, but there's things we can play with while we're doing our lessons. Now there are no valves, so these tubes will come out nice and easily as well. There shouldn't be much of an issue getting these out. I do want to show you. You can see already, just having a trumpet for even less than a month, we're starting to get some gunk build up here. That happens. And then for this third valve slide, some of the newer trumpets have this screw. That screw is really good. It keeps the third valve from falling off by accident, so I just loosened that to take this off. So that's my trumpet, all the way apart. Kind of looks funny, but no big deal. All right, so let's just move that out of the way. This person happened to get the maintenance kit. The thing I don't like about the maintenance kit is it comes with the valve oil, so generally speaking, lots of students end up with the valve oil for the maintenance kit and then their regular valve oil, so they have so much valve oil. Okay, so valve oil we've talked about already. This is going to come into play again at the end, but we'll leave that aside for now. So this is a trumpet snake. So it's just like a plumbing snake. In fact, you could think of this very much like it's plumbing because it's pipes and tubes and things like that. All right, so I didn't say this. Other than the valves, if you were cleaning this, doing your once a year cleaning or twice a year cleaning, you would now put this in a partially full bathtub. Most of our sinks aren't long enough for this. Maybe mine is at home, I'm not sure, but usually bathtub's easier. So you would put this in water, submerged in water, nice soap, then the snake just goes in, and watch, it's going to come out right there. A couple things to point out, like if you put it in the bell end, it's going to go all the way to heat in, it's going to curve around. It won't go any further though, so it's not like just because it curves and will do bends and everything, doesn't mean it's able to like break through things. So here, I'll show you real quick. So I'm going to go all the way. I felt a little pressure, that meant it was a turn, and now, oh boy, you can see the brush in the valve right there. Okay, and if you couldn't, actually it was there. So that's my trumpet snake. It's a little bit tricky to put it back in. You're just going to wrap it around itself. I would say once you've used this trumpet's really not dirty, so I'm not counting this time, but once you've used your trumpet snake for the first time, don't keep it in the case anymore. This is really something that you're never going to use at school. You should not use this at school. It should be at home. Okay, then we have, we take our trumpet out of the bathtub. Again, I don't want you to put valves in the tub, right? You're too young for that. There's pads on these that keep they're felts. They keep the valves from being really loud. I don't really want you to be getting those wet. There's things I can show you how to clean the valves. So the trumpet does come with slide grease. Usually we see this on saxophones and clarinets. It's called cork grease. So what we do is we want these slides to be slimy. So what we do is I like to put it on my finger and just rub it on. I don't need to do too much because this trumpet is already well lubricated. Oh, and for these, maybe take an old rag, wipe them down after you pull them out of the bathtub. Yeah, you just wipe them down; they'll be fine. Most of that grime will come right off. And then what I like to do also is after I put Vaseline on, let me show you this a little bit better. I like to put the tube on like that, work it around a little bit, pull it back out, and then I'll take a rag and wipe off any excess Vaseline. Because even if you put just a little bit, because it's a tube and it's metal on metal, that'll really add up. And it's like you just cleaned it off. You don't want to have buildup of Vaseline. So I put that on. The second one. For the second valve tube, there's like a little, it's not a screw, but it looks like a screw that should go out from the instrument. The reason that's there is to give you something to hold on to pull that out. Then I'm going to do the tuning slide. I like to do the bottom slide first. And again, if I were to do this, I would want to make sure I do both sides and get any of that excess grease off there. Okay, now before I put the third valve slide on, again, I'm hesitant with this because you all are so young, but the third valve slide actually gets oil. It gets a drip. This is something you actually have to be actively using when you get older. But I'm not going to put that on now because I haven't warned this student and I really don't want to damage their instrument. Because what will happen is they'll go to play it and it'll be so loose it'll fall off. Now, thankfully, this screw helps with that. All right, so now for the valves. Before I put them back in, this maintenance kit came with a really nice valve brush. So I would just stick this through the valves to clean it. I really like these. They didn't have these when I was a kid, or at least they weren't readily sold. So you could do that. Now, if you don't have that valve brush, here's what you do. Tell kids like a bandana or really thin material. Think like undershirt type of material, something that's really thin as a rag. And you put the corner of the rag over the eraser end of a pencil, and you use the pencil to pass it through. Once it's through, you pull the pencil out and just give it a little shake back and forth. I can show that at school, but I'm sorry, I don't have a rag. I should have that right now, but I don't. Then I put these all back on because I have them nice in order. 3, 2, 1. I could do 1, 2, 3. I could do 2, 1, 3. I could do 2, 3, 1. Whatever combination I want. I don't even know if I said 1, 2, 3. I think I did. And then for the valves, again, if we were doing a full Trumpet Clean, you would wipe them off with a rag. Just give them an old wipe. I wouldn't get too into taking brushes into the valves. The valves are very delicate. I think I went over all that in the Trumpet Cleaning, or the valve oiling one. So you want to be careful with that. So as I'm finishing up with this, the last thing I'll say is we haven't done the mouthpiece yet. So the Mouthpiece Brush is a very kind of thin looking brush. The nice thing about homes right now is a lot of us might have small brushes at home for cleaning like metal straws for water bottles and whatnot. Those straws would be perfect for a trumpet mouthpiece. The trumpet mouthpiece is something that should be cleaned out regularly. Trumpet mouthpieces get nasty. It's like the first line of defense between your lunch and your trumpet. So a lot of food will get lodged in there. Now, you know, if I were to look up, well, even if you could see it, it's kind of gross. But this is looking good because they're so new. But to scrub this out, again, soap and water is fine. Just, you know, push it through that way. I like to go through the other way as well. You'll get, especially around in the deep part of the cup, you'll get nasty stuff that builds up there. But the mouthpiece is super easy to clean, and like nobody ever does. So that is trumpet maintenance. I went really fast with that. I'll show you how to do it in class as well. So hey, what's that?